Okay.
Before you do that, you want to set those test cocks, because you're gonna shoot yourself.
Oh no, sorry, water's going through this way. Like this. Alright, so you walk up and it's doing that. Okay, right away I know that's a number one check valve. Alright, those two zones, in the real world, guys, it could be back pressure from a well or something like that that's pushing through the number two check. But for testing, it's not gonna be that. Okay, it's gonna be a number one check valve. Alright, so I'm gonna notify, identify, inspect, and observe, and then I'm going to bleed my test box number 4, number 3, 2, and you see how it stopped when I started running flow through it? It stopped right away. And number 1, and then close number 2, 3, 4. Okay, now it's going to start again. Okay, I'll connect my high side hose to test cock number 2. My low side hose, test cock number 3. And connect my vent, just like one thread, just to hold it there. Okay. Make sure all your needle valves are closed on your gauge. I'm going to open up the low side, so test cock number 3 first. Okay. And I'm going to start bleeding the low side. Open up test cock number 2, and you're going to see your gauge bounce and come up. Open up the high side bleed. Okay, when you open that up, you got to be careful that you don't bring it down too far as well, because if this was closed a little more and this was open more, it could do that. But so I'm bleeding the high, and then sorry about that. Trying to keep it handy, guys. And then I'm going to close the number 2 shut off. Close the high side, close the low side, and then look, it's dumping out. Okay, it's going to dump all the way down. I'm not going to have an apparent reading. Test is done. All right, so I'm going to close my test cocks. Going to restore the customer, and I'm going to remove my equipment, and then I'm going to note on the paperwork, and I'll show you guys. If anyone have a performance sheet with you, I'll grab them in a minute. So I'm going to note the number 1 check leaked, no apparent, no test, and can't get any more reads. There's a couple different ways that you can note that. So I would mark that number 1 check leaked, okay, and then I would write in the comments no apparent, no test, or you can write cannot continue test, number 1 check fail. And then you would fail the device, and that's it. Okay. Now, I come up and let's see. I have device. Okay. Come up and it's nothing's wrong with it, right? Now watch. So I'm going to notify, identify, inspect, and observe. Open up my test cocks. Close. Close. High side hose on test cock number 2. Test cock number 3. Vent on loosely. Open up my low. Start bleeding my low. Open up my high. Start bleeding my high. Close the number 2 shut off. Close the number 1, and then it's going to start dumping out. it's gonna dump until the relief valve opens up. Alright, that's a bad number one check, but there was flow through the device. Literally, as soon as you create flow, boom, stops. So the way these are designed, that relief valve won't open up if you have flow through the device, right? So if you have flow through, so that would be a bad number one. So if I did that, if I shut this and then I close this and then it dumps out, that's a bad number one check.
I'm not tracking. It's supposed to come out.
If the number one check's bad, it's not supposed to come out if there's flow in it, through it.
Oh, gotcha.
If there's flow through it, I'm not gonna see it like that, right? If I walk up and it's not doing anything, you gotta go, you don't know if there's anything wrong with it yet.
Bless you.
Okay, but then as soon as I close off the flow, then it starts dumping out.
So no apparent, no test.
Yeah, so there's no apparent, right? So no apparent, no test, bad number one check. Okay, that's the two number one check failures, all right?
Basically the two different scenarios, one was leaking when we walked up with, and the other scenario it was not leaking.
Yes, yes. And you don't know it until you actually put your hoses on and you bleed, and all that, and then you try to look at your apparent, and, there's no apparent, right? So,
Could you run through the scenario, the first one again, where it was leaking when you came up?
yeah. Let's see, I don't know why it's still dumping out. Let me close this off.
It's probably the two on the back. The two
Oh,
knobs.
still, that's right, okay. All right, so you walk up, it's doing this, right? Okay, you go through the motions, you gotta notify, identify, inspect, and observe. Connect your high side hose, connect your low side hose. Your vent you can connect if you want. I'm going to start bleeding the low. Start bleeding the high. Close, shut off, close the high, close the low, and then there's no apparent, it's gonna dump down. Okay, it's the same thing as before, it's pretty simple. All right, so that's a bad number one check.
I hope I get.
That's a simple one, right? Because then you're done,
That's when you see
and you already
Yeah,
have
I know what this one is.
and then you already have one failure out of the way too, right?
Yeah.
How many people?
So
And I won't screw up the rest
I
of
was
the
say, how many
test.
people are going to be testing?
there'll
Hands
be
on.
one here and one there, so two people.
Two
Just two
people.
people. Okay.
There could be three,
I think you know this thing.
and normally, it's gonna probably be that
Should we
one
take
if
our
there's
test
a
on
third
Friday?
person, but
I s-
normally it's this one and that
Or
one.
one.
Okay.
Alright, so,
It says it's Friday morning.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
now
need something else.
let's do a bad number two, check, alright? I'm gonna notify, identify, inspect, and observe. I'm going to bleed my test cocks. My high side hose to test cock number 2. Low to test cock number 3. And my bypass, I'm gonna connect with just one thread here. Okay. And I'm gonna start with my low side, test cock number 3. Start bleeding it. Make sure your hoses are tight. In that case, if I did that, I would tell the proctor I want to start over. Most of the time they're gonna say, just go, just keep going. But if it confuses you on where you're at in the process, just start over, you know? So then I'll go into,
So if you blow it, you can say I want to start over
Yeah.
at any time?
if you catch yourself, yeah, you can do it 100 times if you want.
Oh man, they're gonna be here for a while.
The whole thing is you don't want to hand them that paperwork. As soon as you hand that paperwork to them, it's final, okay?
I can stand it one day longer than they can.
You can normally catch yourself when you make a mistake. If you do, just start over. Just tell them I want to start over. Okay, so I'm gonna bleed the high side, I'm gonna close the number 2 shut off, I'm gonna close the high bleed, close the low bleed, okay? So I have nice apparent readings, about 9 something. Okay, now I'm gonna do test number 1. Okay, I'm gonna open up my low control 1 full turn, or my high control 1 full turn, my low control no more than 1/4, and I'm going to control how fast it comes down. And I'm gonna watch my gauge, and as soon as water hits my hand, 2.8, okay? I'm gonna close my, my low control, okay? Now I'm, leave your high control open, because I'm gonna now send water this way. I'm gonna bleed that out, I'm gonna tighten, I'm going to open it. Going to take your gauge back up top. This is where a lot of students mess up because they go straight to opening their vent. I'm already down on the low side of the scale. I don't want to do that, right? And then also when you bleed this, you want to be careful that you don't bleed so much that you cause your relief valve to open up, because it's already down there, right? We just tested the relief valve. All right, so now I'm going to take it back up over the apparent, which was like 9 something, right? Over 10. So I'm just going to take it all the way up, close it back down. Now watch, when I open up my vent, it's gonna start dumping out to the relief valve opening point. Okay, that's a bad number 2 check. Okay, now, if it stopped above the relief valve opening point, it's considered holding tight, but it didn't, right? So here's what you do. You close the vent, you take it back up to above the apparent, and you give it a second chance, and then you open it again. All right, and then it's going to come on down. Okay, that's a bad number 2 check. All right.
So I had a question. So if on the second go it holds, do you do a third redundancy, like to make sure
if
that
it holds, it holds.
Okay.
You gave it a second chance, it holds. For testing, it's not going to hold. They're gonna set it up or it's gonna fail both times, okay? So then I'm done. I can't get my number 1 check reading because my number 2 is not holding tight, okay? The whole number 1 check test is you gotta have that high pressure behind the number 2 check when you lift up the number 1 check and reseat it down, okay? So then, I would be done. I would close off my test cocks. I'd restore the customer, remove my equipment, and then I would note my relief valve opened up at like 3, somewhere around there, and my number 2 check leaked. Cannot get number 1, fell. All right. All right, so that's a number 2 check failure. All right, so now let's do a number 2 shut off, and we're gonna see that because we can't open up the relief valve, okay? So, number 2 shut off. All right, so I'm gonna notify, identify, inspect, and observe. I'm going to bleed my test cocks. Hose 1, 2, 3, 4. Connect my high side hose. And actually, let me set this up real quick. I want here and here. Okay. Connect my high side hose. Test cock number 2. My low side to number 3. And then slow, loosely on there. All right. Open up my low side first, start bleeding it. Connect my high side, start bleeding it. Close my high side, close my low side. Okay, got my parent reading, got about 9.6. All right, now I'm gonna do test number 1, do my relief valve opening. So I'm gonna open 1 full turn, and I'm gonna open no more than a quarter turn. Okay, I don't have it set up enough.
Valve underneath open.
Oh, that's the problem right there. That's the problem. Okay.
Walk up.
So now it's gonna open up and see it won't. You do not open it up more than a quarter turn. Okay, so let's say that's a quarter and it's not gonna go down. All right, so what you do is you close off both control, you open and close your number 2 shut off, and then you try it again, no more than a quarter turn, and it's not gonna drop, okay? So then you just close the low control, and now I'm gonna take my hose, now it becomes a bypass, okay? So now I'm gonna connect it to test cock number 1. All right, so I'm gonna bleed this out, so I'm gonna open up test cock number 1. Oh, nice. Okay, and then you're gonna open it up in direction of flow. So I'm gonna open here, I'm gonna open here. All right. Now I'm gonna open, since it's already, my high control's open, I'm gonna open up my low. Now it will come down, right? So now I can get my relief valve opening point.
No more than a quarter turn.
No more than a quarter turn. So I got 2.6, right? So I'm gonna close. All I'm gonna do to get my number 1 reading, because I already got my number 2 tightness, right? I put high pressure water behind number 2. So that's good. Got my relief valve, 2.6, that's good. Now I'm gonna do my number 1 check. I'm gonna open up the low above my parent, and then my number 1 check. Okay, so that is a number 2 shut off failure, because it's not holding the water back to build up pressure, you know, in this area to be able to get my relief valve to open up. Okay, so then I got all my readings. Close my test cocks. Right, I'm gonna restore the customer.
Bypass valve will pass the test, it's the shut-off valve.
Yeah, so this is perfectly fine, the shut-off valve, so you have to note that. Okay, if you don't note it, and you don't note that the number 2 is bad, they'll fail you. So you gotta note on your paperwork that the number 2 shut off is bad. Okay, and I just manipulated it with the bypass hose to be able to get the read. All right,
But the device itself will pass.
will pass.
Will
Yeah,
pass.
yeah.
Okay.
So you pass the device, but you note that there's a bad number 2 shut off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have to connect the bypass like that, that means like number 2's bad?
If the number 2 shut off is bad.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Just if the number 2 shut off is bad. So if you can't open up the relief valve, you have to use the bypass to make up for a leaky number 2 shut off. Because the whole thing with getting the relief valve to open up is through our gauge, we're putting high pressure water into the low zone, and it's just leaving the device. And we can't build that pressure up in the low zone to get that spring on the relief valve to be able to just open up, because it wants to always be open. Okay, so then we have to add more volume to make up for that water that's leaving, and then we take high pressure water through our gauge into that zone, and then now it will work, right? Okay, so that's the 4 scenarios you guys will deal with, so go ahead and work on those, guys. If you want me to come around and set